Welcome to part two of talking about queer and trans history in Canada, the Purge campaigns. We left off talking about Michelle Douglas. I did look, and I don't know the exact date, but sometime in the 60s, the government enacted kind of a rule or a policy in the military that said gays and lesbians could not serve. Um, I know that it was one of the demands that was asked for in Canada's first protest, which I'll talk about maybe next. That's a fun vibe to talk about because we're talking about a lot of really difficult things. So let's talk about what we did to counteract all of this. But yeah, one of the demands in that protest was the removal of that law or policy. So during the purges. Oh yeah, okay. This is almost ridiculous and super troubling. There was even a fruit machine used to supposedly detect homosexuality. The name for this machine was taken from the derogatory term for a homosexual man, a quote unquote fruit. I'll put up an image on the slide. It shows a gray and white, grainy photo of a man with his shirt off, showing his torso up. He's like flexing with his hands behind his head, and his muscles are showing, and he's kind of got his top off. So, suspected homosexual men. The lesbians weren't a part of the purges until around the 80s, late 70s. Suspected homosexual men were brought into a small room, hooked up to electrodes and wires, and forced to look at images like this one. The device would measure their pupils, perspiration, and pulse for a quote unquote supposed erotic response. If the man's pupils enlarged at the sight of a naked man, for example, this was thought to be an indication of same sex attraction. Yikes. After the government invested thousands of dollars in the Fruit Machine Project, which is what it was called, it was abandoned in the 1960s. This technology would be replaced by polygraph tests and detailed and demeaning interrogations about the suspected homosexual's sex life. And that leaves me wondering, like, what if the people that were brought into these rooms were just afraid and that's why they were perspiring? I can't imagine this in any way, shape, or form being, for one, a way to detect homosexuality, and for two, something that our government actually invested thousands of dollars in. There is a documentary about the fruit machine called The Fruit Machine, and it's directed by a woman named Sarah Fodey. I'll put a movie poster up here. I'll put a link to IMDb. I'm not sure why I watched it, to be quite honest, but if I can find that information, I'll put that in the little notes thing. So this poster shows the photo of a white man with short red hair. The top half of the photo is intact, but the bottom is all shredded and cut up, and it looks like it's been through a paper shredder. So the documentary includes interviews with former military members who recalled the Purge campaigns. And I did ask Sarah if it was okay to put a couple lines of this documentary into this workshop and I guess these history moments. So thank you to Sarah for allowing me to quote the people that you spoke to. So one victim of the Purge campaign said, quote, "You couldn't be gay. It was the worst thing that you could be." One woman was told, "You have a mental illness. This is not normal." And one woman says through tears, "We were interrogated like we were prisoners of war." It's awful. In 1963, the RCMP established a security and intelligence unit referred to as A-3 unit. It was established to uncover what they called character flaws in government employees and established to find and remove all of the homosexuals from government and law enforcement. I'm pretty sure that was just what the Purge campaign was about. Oh yeah, and then another just completely ridiculous fact, and just shows our government being completely awful and also terrible at their jobs of governing the country. Um, Sorry, shade. Or shame, definitely shame. In 1963, RCMP used a map of Ottawa, and with red dots, they marked all the alleged residences and businesses that were frequented by homosexuals. However, the map was soon filled with red and it was discarded. Instead of saying that that map thing is not going to work, they tried again with two larger maps of Ottawa. But again, they filled up the red dots, and thus the maps were of no use. The mapping then ended. I think of the hilarity of this, of just trying to mark locations of where gay people are and gay people live and gay people go. And it's like, bitch, we are everywhere. No, thank you. Um, and yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about immigration. So in 1953, the Immigration Act was amended to prohibit homosexuals from even entering the country. And I found some PDF copies of the actual act, and I'll put them up here with like the relevant portions circled in red. So the relevant portions say, quote, no persons, dot, 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 shall be admitted to Canada if he is a member of the following classes of persons, dot, dot, dot. And the dot, dot, dot is just a bunch of legal jargon that is not necessary and probably put there in an attempt to confuse people. So people weren't allowed into Canada if they fell into these classes. Section E, prostitutes, homosexuals, or persons living on the avails of prostitution or homosexualism, which means having a sexual attraction or sexual relations with persons of the same sex. I'm definitely into homosexualism. That is an ism I can get down with, but not in this fucking hateful way they're saying it. So pretty much gay people were linked with people who were sex workers and people who worked in the, I don't know, living on the avails of homosexualism, like maybe like bath owners and everything. Um, Pimps or persons coming to Canada for these or other immoral purposes. For one, sex work is work, and for two, um, yeah, don't criminalize homosexuality and write it into the Immigration Act. And now looking back on that, I wonder what people were thinking and if people who agreed with these acts, kind of what if anything they think about the side that they chose when they did so. I know a lot of other people have a lot of negatory like feelings about gayness and queerness and transness, and it comes from these acts. So definitely shame on Canada. In 1978, so a mere 5 years before I was born, a new immigration act removed homosexuals from the list of inadmissible classes coming into Canada. Sorry, inadmissible classes coming into Canada. Words are hard. This is the second video that I've done, and like you should have seen how many takes of this it's taken so far. So yeah, what you're getting is the cleaner copy, but the chaos definitely happened before. I'll put a picture of a newspaper article in here that says Canada's immigration law has changed. And then I talked a little bit about the We Demand list of demands that was a part of the first protest in Canada. And I want to talk a lot more about that. I think I at one point developed a whole workshop where all I did was talk about the We Demand protest, and I didn't release it or anything like that because it wasn't really in any kind of like final form. Like my research is kind of all over the place, and I don't get paid for content creation, so sometimes I have to do the work that I need to do instead of do the work I want to do. But these ones, like the what I'm recording right now, is 100% like for me, and I'm liking it, and it's helping me see myself and my community in a different light. And with that light comes, I guess, hope, and that's I think that'll be what will help a lot. So let's see if I can get through all 10 of these, and then I'll talk more of the act later. So the list of demands were the removal of crimes of gross indecency and indecent acts from the criminal code, remove indictments for those same acts, a uniform age of consent to allow immigration, equal employment rights, to remove homosexuality as a grounds for divorce, to stop denying custodial rights to parents who were gays and lesbians, for the government to admit to the Purge campaigns, to give back the right to serve in the armed forces, which we learned about in the Michelle Douglas thing, and human rights protection and legislation, which we talked about in the first Queer History Moment I recorded on this channel. I think there's like 5 now, and I promise I will come back and record more. Thanks for watching, and see you soon. Happy Pride. And just because I have 10 seconds, here is the poster for the gay rights rally. It says, "Come out and join us, Canadian Gay Rally. You are not alone. Demand your rights," and then the details. Thanks.